My name is Iseli and you are watching KBN TV, the partners television.
It is said there cannot be universal health coverage without enhanced sexual reproductive health and rights. This is why the Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, ZAGO, brings you Inside Health TV program, a program that promotes sexual reproductive health rights and also discusses various health issues affecting people from all walks of life. Join me, Tumenji Chinjili, every Sunday from 20 to 21 hours on KBN TV, DSTV channel 279 and Topstar 102. We'll also be live on ZAGO and KBN Facebook pages and YouTube channels. Tune in and share that health experience. Hello, good evening and welcome to our first episode of the Inside Health TV series program right here at KBN Television. This is a program that promotes sexual reproductive health and rights, as well as a program that will discuss various health issues affecting Zambians and beyond. It is brought to you every Sunday from 20 to 21 hours by the Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, ZAGO. We are on DSTV channel 279 as well as Topstar 102. If you don't have any of this, please don't worry because you can still follow us through on Facebook. The pages are KBN TV and ZAGO. For the YouTube lovers, please subscribe to the YouTube channels and you'll be part and parcel of this program. Just to mention, we'll also have a call-in segment where we want you, our viewers, to be part and parcel of this program. We want you to call so that you'll be able to ask those questions that you have. You'll be able to make the contributions that you have, as well as also get the clarifications that you want to get. I'm your host, Tumenji Chinjili. So today, this evening, we'll be looking at a very interesting topic. We'll be looking at ZAGO as an organization, its establishment, and its mandate to serving society. In addition to that, we'll also look at one of the most important campaigns that ZAGO has been carrying out since 2019, which is the Zambia Prevention of Unsafe Abortions, and we'll also look at the legal framework on the termination of pregnancy. Well, to help me discuss this interesting topic, I've been joined by two guests in the studio. We have Dr. Jean Chiro. Dr. Jean, welcome and good evening.
Good evening to our viewers and thank you so much.
Then we also have a legal advisor who happens to be Mr. Muzi Kamanga. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Tumenji, and I'm happy to be here, and good evening to your viewers.
So let's get right straight into it. Before we go into the details, Mr. Kamanga, could you just tell us who Mr. Kamanga is and what he does?
Thank you very much, Tumenji. I am a Zambian, trained as a lawyer, and I've been working for the last 17 years or so within this sector, and I've dedicated much of my work around human rights with a specific focus on sexual and reproductive health rights. We have worked within the non-profit sector, currently in the employment of WILDAF, as well as ZAGO, where I serve as a legal advisor.
Great, interested. Over to you, Doc. Would you just tell us who Dr. Jean is and what she does?
Okay, Tumenji, thanks a lot. So, like you mentioned, my name is Dr. Jean Chira. I am based at Women and Newborn Hospital, UTH. I am a resident officer there, resident medical officer there. I am specializing in obstetrics and gynecology.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. So these are guests, as I earlier mentioned. They'll take us through this important and very interesting discussion. So to you, I'll start with you, Doc. Would you just tell us about ZAGO? Tell us more about ZAGO, why and when it was formed, and also the membership structure. How is this organization structure of ZAGO?
So to start with, ZAGO initials Okay, so they stand for Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians. This organization was actually founded in 2005, but officially registered in 2006. So it's a non-profit organization that basically is involved in the prevention, how do I put it? Okay, so basically it's a non-profit organization for specialists, for people who are specialized in women and newborn health. So this organization basically is involved in the prevention of maternal mortality and morbidity, and one of the areas of interest that ZAGO focuses on is unsafe abortions. We do tackle a lot of other issues, but because of the magnitude and prevalence of unsafe abortions, most of our energies are focused there. Okay. Yeah, and in terms of the structure, we have a hierarchy. So we have a president that most people are aware of. He's almost always in the media, Dr. Macha Swebi. We have the secretary, we have the treasurer. Basically, it's a well-formed organization with different people at different levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just said it's Zambia Association for Gynecologists and Obstetricians.
Yes.
So does it mean that the membership is only open to gynecologists and those specialized in obstetrics?
No, not necessarily. So like I mentioned earlier on, its membership comprises people who are specialized in both the women and newborn care. So we have associate members such as the midwives, we have the pediatricians, we have the pharmacists. So basically anyone who's involved in women rights or health issues can be members as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what makes ZAGO stand out in regards to promoting sexual reproductive health and rights? Because I'm aware there are a lot of institutions that focus on SRHR. So what makes ZAGO stand out?
I think ZAGO stands out basically because of the fact that we are not just concentrated in the urban areas. We are interested in both women and adolescents that are found in far-flung places, in the rural areas out there. Our main area of interest basically is to ensure that women and adolescents are empowered with knowledge of SRHR issues. So you find that even our advocacy issues and our trainings are not just concentrated in one particular area of the country. We are concentrated in all the provinces. So from time to time, we do move from Lusaka to Muchinga province to Eastern province. We have stakeholders in all those areas.
So basically, it's the whole Zambia.
It's the whole Zambia. Yes, we're covering the whole country.
Great.
Yeah.
So there's a project that is running, which is the Zambia Prevention of Unsafe Abortions. So could you just shed more light on this project? What are the aims? What do you want to achieve at the end of it all?
So I'll basically start with the background of the project. There was, in 2018, in collaboration with the Netherlands government, there's a college called Keith Royal College Institute. So they carried out a research based on the needs assessment of the magnitude and prevention of unsafe abortions in Zambia. And what we found was that there was a lot of unsafe abortions and there were a lot of people dying because of the practice of unsafe abortions. So ZAGO, after that research, decided to take up this role actively to go out in these areas to educate people and basically disseminate information on safe practices. So the campaign that we're carrying out is called Safe Prevention of Unsafe Abortions. It was started in 2019 and officially launched in June of the same year. So our main goal basically is to ensure that women are empowered with knowledge. Both women and adolescents are empowered with knowledge and options to choose from with regards to prevention of unsafe abortions. So we're looking at it from a primary point of view, where we are encouraging these women and adolescents basically to focus on their education by teaching them on prevention of unwanted pregnancies. So we are discussing contraception with them. We are discussing what their options would be should they get pregnant and they want to either continue with their education or continue with the pregnancy. Then we're also empowering them within the confines of the law also should they become pregnant and they want to get rid of the pregnancy, and where they can find such services. I want to put a disclaimer out there that we are not here to give out information on people seeking abortions. We are saying we want people to come and get these services at our facilities because they're available to them, but we are not advertising to say, come, we are giving abortions, they're free for all. No. Within the confines of the law, this service will be provided to you. What ZAGO is interested in is prevention of unwanted pregnancies and also prevention of deaths resulting from unsafe abortions.
Okay, great. So the project is Zambia Prevention of Unsafe Abortions. What is unsafe?
So when we're looking at abortions and we're looking at the word unsafe itself, the World Health Organization defines an unsafe abortion as an abortion that is carried out by a person who is not experienced in the medical field, basically in the field of obstetrics and gynecology, and also it's done outside the confines of a medical environment. So for example, a girl wants to procure an abortion and they come to someone who's going to provide for them the drug outside the hospital by a person who, it can either be me, though I am qualified, but I'm doing it outside the hospital. It's termed as unsafe. So it only becomes safe if it's done within the confines of the law in a hospital environment by a qualified person. So the prevention of unsafe abortion basically tackles issues that have to do with abortions that are carried out illegally outside the confines of the hospital by a qualified person.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how often do people come to get these services? Are people aware that we have our hospitals, or rather any, let's say, clinic? Are people aware that these services are being offered here in Zambia?
I think as ZAGO, we've really played our role in terms of dissemination of information to educate the masses that these services are there for them when they need them. However, there's still a lot that needs to be done because, of course, not everyone has access to internet, not everyone has access to media or even television, as most of us are right now. So, yes, of course, these services are available and people do seek them for as long as people continue to engage in sex, so to say. Pregnancies will occur. So for as long as there's a man and a woman somewhere out there, and an unwanted pregnancy will occur. For as long as there's a woman and a man out there, whether the pregnancy was planned for or not, they still come to seek the service. I cannot give you the exact number of people who come to seek the service, but yes, of course, on a daily basis, in most institutions, we do see these women either coming in with a complication because of the abortion carried out by themselves, or carried out for them by someone else, or them coming to the hospitals to seek the service. Yeah.
So are these services also offered even in rural areas, or it's just the urban areas that offer these services?
So as long as there's a hospital out there in the rural area, as long as there's a clinic, and as long as ZAGO has continued to train people, different stakeholders, these services are offered. And where the service is not offered by a particular facility, there's a system where people are referred to another facility that has the service. Yeah.
Okay. So, Doc, could you just tell us, our viewers out there, what exactly Safe Choices is all about?
So, like I mentioned earlier, Safe Choices is basically where a woman or an adolescent has the right or has options to choose from. okay, this is where a woman has an option to choose whether to um, uh, use contraceptive methods. This is where a woman has an option to choose whether to use condoms. This is where a woman has, you basically have the right to decide what you want to be done to your body with regards to reproduction. So if I want to choose contraception, on the table there will be different options of contraception that I have a choice to choose from. If I want to choose to get pregnant, I have the right to get pregnant. If I want to I want to get rid of a pregnancy, I have the right to get rid of this pregnancy within the confines of the law without being judged by the provider of the service in the hospital or in the facility.
So how important is this campaign, the Safe Choices campaign?
So the importance of this is that it's helping us to see a reduction in unwanted pregnancies and in unsafe terminations of pregnancy. To be honest with you, when we're discussing the magnitude of unsafe abortions and maybe the number of mortalities or deaths that are resulting from these unsafe abortions and also the complications arising, they're really high. Currently, I think the last statistics, we've gone down from about 13%, according to the Zambia Demographic Health Survey, to about 7% now. So we're really doing a good job with regards. We don't want to see any woman or a girl die from complications of unsafe abortions. So this program is really important, and we want as many people as possible to help us disseminate this information out there to say, yes, of course you may get pregnant, you may not want a pregnancy, but you're not on your own. There are people out there who are willing to help you.
So earlier you mentioned that you work with different stakeholders.
Yes, please.
So what is your target? What kind of stakeholders do you look at?
So our biggest, or maybe one of our most biggest stakeholder locally is the Ministry of Health. The different other stakeholders are the traditional leaders. You know that they are the ones on the ground in the community, and they're the voices that people will respect. If a traditional leader says, do this or do that, let's say for example in Eastern Province where people do Chidelano, the traditional leaders have come in, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've seen that that is coming to an end. So yes, we have the traditional leaders, we have the youths themselves, we have the adolescents, we have the teachers, we have people who are law enforcers, the police, the lawyers. We basically it's all encompassing. We are not selective to say we don't want this group, we are going to work. We are working with everyone. So even at an international level, we have different stakeholders. We have the World Health Organization, we have FIGO, our main sponsor of the prevention of unsafe abortions.
Does that also include the church? Because this is a controversial issue, so is the church also part of the stakeholders?
Of course it is. The different religious groups and the different religious organizations are all stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, like we mentioned, whether you want it or not, as long as there's a man and a woman somewhere, there will be a pregnancy. Whether the pregnancy is wanted or not, it will still be there. So in order for us to in order for us to reach out to everyone, we are involved with too many different stakeholders. We will not select one over the other. Whoever is willing to work with us, we will work with them. And especially those that are really influential, like the church, like you mentioned, it's a very controversial topic. And the church also has its views, and so, but then at the end of the day, you will not stop people from doing such things. They will still go ahead and do them. So if it means disseminating information through the church, even though they will not agree with it or they will agree with it, we still have to go on and do it.
Okay, so over to you, Mr. Kamanga. Could you just kindly tell us in detail what termination of pregnancy, or rather in simple terms, what the law says on abortion in Zambia?
Thank you very much, Tumenji. To best answer your question, probably we need to refer to what the abortion law of Zambia is, which essentially that the abortion law of Zambia is consisted of a number of individual statutes that collectively make up the abortion law. Foremost in those statutes is, of course, the grand norm of the land, which is the Constitution, with Chapter 1 of the laws of Zambia. Then we have the Termination of Pregnancy Act, Chapter 304 of the laws of Zambia. Then we have the Health Professions Act, number 15 of 2009. Then we also have the Gender Equity and Equality Act, number 22 of 2015. Then we have the Penal Code. And through the Gender Equity and Equality Act, there are two international instruments that talk about the subject of discussion today, which were domesticated in Zambia in 2016. And this is the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, otherwise known as the ZAGO, and then the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of women in Africa, are commonly referred to as the Maputo Protocol. These statutes collectively make up what is the abortion law of the Republic of Zambia. But in terms of what, as a summation, does the law say on abortion, is that stemming from the Constitution, in particular Article 12, Sub-Article 2, the Constitution has provided for abortion in legal terms. That is to say, we've legalized abortion, provided certain conditions are followed, and those conditions are spelled out by subsidiary legislation, which probably during the course of our discussion I can refer to.
Okay, so if you could just tell us the conditions attached to that law. What are the conditions?
Thank you very much. So the substantive law relating to our subject of discussion today is the Termination of Pregnancy Act, which is Chapter 304 of the laws of Zambia. And this act, in fulfillment of the constitutional instruction to set out conditions under which this service will be provided, has set out the conditions. Probably, I'll break down the conditions in three forms. This law tries to answer the question of who can provide the abortion, where can the abortion be provided, and lastly, under what circumstances can the abortion service be provided. From the who can provide the abortion, the law has stated as a condition that only people who are trained and registered as medical doctors will provide the abortion. That is condition that you need to face, to I think bear in mind. And the second condition relating to the question of where is that only places that are registered and designated as hospitals will provide this service. No other place, however grande or however high class that place is. If it is not registered in accordance with the law, that is under the Health Professions Council of Zambia as a hospital, such a place should not provide the service of abortion. Then lastly, it has spelled out in detail the conditions that, or circumstances that would lead to the abortion. The four are the ones that it refers to in Section 3 of the Act. One is that whenever there is a risk to the life of the pregnant woman, it is within the spirit and letter of the law to recommend termination of pregnancy. Our good doctors will always recommend. The decision will always be the woman's to make. That is condition one. Condition two, or let's call it circumstances, because your question is using the term circumstance. The second circumstance is that whenever there is a risk to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman, it is within the spirit and letter of the law to recommend an abortion. And remember, in all these risks, the law does not define the extent of the risk. So it's a subjective case to be decided by the doctors as well as the woman involved. And the third circumstance is that whenever there's a risk to the physical or mental health of the other existing children of the pregnant woman, it will be within the spirit and letter of the law to terminate the pregnancy. And differentiate circumstance 2 and circumstance 3. Circumstance 2 refers to whenever there's a risk to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman herself. Circumstance 3 refers to whenever there's a risk of physical or mental health to the other existing children of the woman. That is a distinction you need to make. Then the last condition is that whenever there is a risk of injury to the physical or mental health of the unborn child, you can always recommend termination of pregnancy. And that would refer to if the child will be born with such serious abnormalities, be it physical or mentally, then you would recommend termination of pregnancy. So those are the conditions that the law has set out under the Termination of Pregnancy Act in Section 3.
Okay, so I do understand we've had these laws for a long time now, right? So why is it that it's something that's new to most Zambians? I think most people don't really know or rather understand this law.
You see, our constitution, in particular, Article 12, sub-Article 2, was spelled out, I think, in July of 1963. And we've never altered our Bill of Rights. From the time this entity we call Zambia came into being in October 24th, 1964 to date, our Bill of Rights has remained as it was. So the founding fathers and mothers of Zambia set out this one in the Bill of Rights. Secondly, the Termination of Pregnancy Act, which is the substantive law relating to the subject of discussion today, was enacted in 1972. And it has been on our statute book since then. As regards to now your question, why are we discussing this? And most of our people don't know that. It's a loaded question in terms of giving the exact answers. You can only speculate. But one of the reasons I feel, having worked in this sector for some time, is that you will appreciate that Zambia has one of the lowest human rights culture. And because abortion centers on human rights, and we are largely conservative and religious country, that has always crowded our thinking when it comes to these straightforward issues. Then secondly, the way this law was passed in the 70s probably would attest to why we have these challenges. Until, I think, 2012, there was no position as to involving the public when you're passing laws. I think the regulatory impact assessment that was demanded for any law where you need to call stakeholders to discuss and stuff was only passed, I think, in 2012. Before then, that wasn't the case. So probably for people who are in the executive, they would pass laws without much stakeholder input. And that bad part of our history has followed this law.
So you just talked about the conditions attached when one wants to have a termination of pregnancy. So let's say I'm a minor, let's say I'm maybe 13, and I find out I'm pregnant and I'm not ready to keep that pregnancy. I would love to terminate. Is there some sort of age limit attached to that? Do I have to get parental consent?
Certainly, but also you have to appreciate the fact that these laws are not implemented in isolation. They're implemented to augment or solidify other laws. So when it comes to children, the Termination of Pregnancy Act is implemented in strict adherence to what the Penal Code provides. And the Penal Code has provided for any person, any female person who is a child, to have her pregnancy terminated by reason that that pregnancy was gotten through an illegal means, which is a defilement. So any child who is below the age of 16 gets pregnant or have a pregnancy terminated pursuant to the Penal Code in line with the termination of pregnancy. Whereas for people who are 16 and above, the woman involved will make that decision.
Okay, so what are some of the legal consequences of carrying out an unlawful or rather unsafe abortions? What are the consequences when one does that?
So for those of us who are not trained like Dr. Chilwe as medical doctors, for those of us who don't work in facilities that have licenses to operate as hospitals, we have no right to be involved in the provision of this service. And should we, for any act or misadventure of ourselves, get involved in such, then there are consequences that the Penal Code has stipulated. That is in section 151 to 153. So for those who try to provide, for instance, any substance, knowing fully well that that substance will be used to procure the miscarriage or abortion of a pregnant woman, a 7-year imprisonment term is provided should you be found guilty by a competent court of law. Then for any woman who allows an unqualified person to provide such a service to her, knowing that she is pregnant and wants to procure her miscarriage, a 14-year jail sentence is prescribed for those. That is if tried and found guilty by a court of law. So there are those kind of penal sanctions that have been provided by the penal code for anyone who is not supposed to be involved in such.
So earlier you mentioned that for one to be offered this service, they have to be a trained medical personnel and a hospital with the right equipment. So let's say in places where let's say rural areas where maybe they just have a clinic, and we know that some of these clinics that we have in our country are not well equipped, and here is somebody who wants to get this service. How does that work?
Zambia's law, especially relating to the provision of medical services, is done through a mode in law we call agency. So the Health Professions Act, I think in section 51, provides that no health facility will be managed unless a person who qualifies as a doctor is in charge of the daily supervision of that particular health facility. So for all these health posts you see, health centers you see, there's a doctor that is assigned to do so. And all the personnel stationed at those health facilities, be it at a rural set up to the district level, report to a certain doctor who is in charge of the provision of those services. So the gap will always be there in terms of the doctor-patient ratio in Zambia. I stand to be corrected by her, but I've heard figures of 1 to 1,002. Is it 20,000 to 1? Which is, I think, quite alarming when you look at the WHO standards, which is, I think, 1 to 100. So in terms of human resource shortages in the health sector, especially for doctors, it's quite acute. And the further you move from urban centers, the more unlikely you to find a doctor. So those challenges are there. But I also know that the Ministry of Health, in their strategic plan, is also trying to promote the provision of e-health services. And doctors can also provide this facility of abortion through telemedicine, where a doctor at rural post 1 probably will liaise with a doctor at another station and provide those services. There are attempts to address those shortages. But in terms of how we can help the rural population to catch up with that, is that one is that probably our doctors need to make use of telemedicine. 2 is that we need to enhance the issue of the vehicle of agency within the medical field, so that mid-level providers, in providing this service at a place where the doctor is not physically present, will still be able to do so under the supervision, be it remote, of the qualified medical provider.
Okay. Remember, to our viewers, we are looking at ZAGO as an organization, its establishment and its mandate to serving society, as well as the most important campaigns that the organization has been carrying out since 2019, which is the Zambia Prevention of Unsafe Abortions. And we are also looking at the legal framework on the termination of pregnancy. So at this moment, we are going to go on a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll have the lines open so that you'll be able to be part and parcel of this program. You'll be able to ask us questions, and you'll also get the clarifications that you want. Stay tuned. Said there cannot be universal health coverage without enhanced sexual reproductive health and rights. This is why the Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, ZAGO, brings you Inside Health TV program, a program that promotes sexual reproductive health rights and also discusses various health issues affecting people from all walks of life. Join me, Tumenje Chinjili, every Sunday from 20 to 21 hours on KBN TV, DSTV channel 279 and Topstar 102. We'll also be live on ZAGO and KBN Facebook pages and YouTube channels. Tune in and share that health experience.
The Africa Cup now enters the round of 16 knockout stage on Topstar. Witness the best of Africa as they face off for glory. For affordable monthly 135 kwacha antenna classic or 140 kwacha dish smart, witness all live matches and see who gets closer to becoming the kings of Africa. Starting 23rd to 26th January, stay with Topstar to watch the round of 16 games and later catch up with quarter-final matches on 29th and 30th January on World Football. But guess what? Zambia's best reality show, The Divorce Club, gets even bigger and better. Catch the premiere of The Divorce Club reunion on Topstar starting 27th January every Thursday and Friday at 21:30 hours on Novella E+. Intrigue yourself to all the drama, suspense and more audacious face-offs. So grab yourself a Topstar antenna full kit at only 149 kwacha or dish full kit at 299 kwacha. Subscribe now to enjoy the best of African football and endless entertainment. Topstar, affordable digital TV.
Hi, my name is Iseli and you are watching KBN TV, the partners television.
The Africa Cup now enters the round of 16 knockout stage on Topstar. Witness the best of Africa as they face off for glory. For affordable monthly 135 kwacha antenna classic or 140 kwacha dish smart, witness all live matches and see who gets closer to becoming the kings of Africa. Starting 23rd to 26th January, stay with Topstar to watch the round of 16 games and later catch up with quarter-final matches on 29th and 30th January on World Football. But guess what? Zambia's best reality show, The Divorce Club, gets even bigger and better. Catch the premiere of The Divorce Club reunion on Topstar starting 27th January every Thursday and Friday at 21:30 hours on Novella E+. Intrigue yourself to all the drama, suspense and more audacious face-offs. So grab yourself a Topstar antenna full kit at only 149 kwacha or dish full kit at 299 kwacha. Subscribe now to enjoy the best of African football and endless entertainment. Topstar, affordable digital TV.
Flying in or flying out, book a timely airport shuttle from BKS to make your trip that much easier.
It is said there cannot be universal health coverage without enhanced sexual reproductive health and rights. This is why the Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, ZAGO, brings you Inside Health TV program, a program that promotes sexual reproductive health rights and also discusses various health issues affecting people from all walks of life. Join me, Tumenje Chinjili, every Sunday from 20 to 21 hours on KBN TV, DSTV channel 279 and Topstar 102. We'll also be live on ZAGO and KBN Facebook pages and YouTube channels. Tune in and share that health experience. Welcome back. Remember, we are looking at ZAGO as an organization, its establishment and its mandate to serving society, as well as the campaign that's been running from 2019, which is the Zambia Prevention of Unsafe Abortions, as well as the legal framework on the termination of pregnancy. So at this stage, our lines are open. You can just dial the line that's showing on your screen, then you'll be able to be part and parcel of this program. You can call and briefly tell us where you are calling us from, and you can also state your name. So back to you, Mr. Kamanga. You earlier talked about the conditions that are attached to when one wants to get the service, the abortion services. So what really, when you talk about the risk, you mentioned that unless somebody has, or rather the pregnancy is giving them, some problems, or there's a risk. What do you really mean when you talk about the risk? What are those risks?
Thank you very much, Tumenji. So, according to the Termination of Pregnancy Act in Section 3, it has spelled out the conditions under which a termination of pregnancy would be legally tenable in Zambia. So it spells that one of those conditions is that whenever there's a risk to the life of the pregnant woman, recommending a termination of pregnancy will be within the spirit and letter of the law. So in terms of what would constitute a risk to the pregnant woman's life, there are many conditions that you can give, but the closest I can have is that for pregnancy, age has a very big bearance on any pregnancy. The older a woman is, the lesser chances such a woman, because of advanced age, is able to undergo the whole process of pregnancy and childbearing. The younger a girl is, the more risky it is for her to give birth and undergo the whole process of pregnancy. So for girls who are probably below maybe 16, it is very risky for them to give birth, and the doctors would recommend probably you that you carry out a termination of pregnancy, just like maybe for a 50, 60-year-old woman. It's a risky pregnancy. Then there might be conditions such as illnesses. Let's say a woman gets pregnant and 3 months later she discovers that she has cancer developing. So the doctors would probably advise that the cancer poses a risk to her life, and she'll be better off to focus on maybe getting the cancer out of her body, medication, than focusing on the pregnancy. So whenever there's a risk that would constitute, a likelihood of her dying, you would recommend termination of pregnancy. As regards to the circumstance of a risk to the physical or mental health, there are many examples you can give. For the physical one, probably even that of illness would suffice. For the mental one is that if, for instance, a woman gets pregnant by virtue of a crime, like she was raped, and she has all these agonizing questions in her head about why, out of all women in the world, she was the only one who was raped and has to carry the child or the potential child of this rapist. That would disturb her mental well-being. And the law has provided for allowance for consideration of terminating that woman's pregnancy. Pretty much the case for whenever there's a risk to the mental physical health of the other existing children of the pregnant woman. Maybe the best example you can give here is the unfortunate case of some story in South Africa. We read that there was a 38-year-old woman who got pregnant by the same boy with her daughter who was 19. For that particular woman in such a case, the pregnancy to her is maybe a shame that she has to share on the man with her daughter and stuff like that. So you would consider terminating a pregnancy. So there are many examples you can give. These are just probably a few that can guide you to search.
Okay. Remember, our lines are open. You can just dial the number that's showing on the screen. Then you'll be part and parcel if you want to ask any question concerning this topic that we're discussing here. Please, you can just dial the number that's showing on the screen, then you'll be part and parcel of this program. So over to you, Doc. What exactly happens before one receives abortion services in a health facility? Do they undergo counseling? What really happens before these services are offered to them?
Okay, thank you, Tumanje. So when a woman or a girl comes seeking for an abortion service, we will not just offer it to them. Okay, so they undergo a series of counseling, a counseling session where we try to establish what are the circumstances under which this woman wants to procure this abortion. What are the different options that she can have should she carry this pregnancy to term? And then also, like Council has mentioned, it has to be within the confines that the penal code provides. So once this woman has undergone the counseling and we've established where within the circumstances this abortion can be provided, there's a consent form that has to be signed, where about 3 signatories, the 3 doctors, unless it's an emergency situation where the woman has maybe a medical condition that is posing a serious risk to her health. For example, an example I would give would be where a woman comes in with a hypertension in pregnancy, and she starts feeding, and the medication to that would be termination of the pregnancy. So yes, in such a situation, you don't need to get 3 signatures from different people, but where this woman is coming in because of, for example, she has financial issues or has psychological issues and needs to get the pregnancy carried out, there will be 3 signatories, one of whom has to be a qualified gynecologist. Okay, so 3 different people need to ascertain that this person really needs the abortion, and we'll offer it to them after that has been done.
So earlier you mentioned to say through these campaigns that have been running, you've seen a reduction in the practice of unsafe abortion as well as maternal death. So in Zambia right now, which province or rather district has the highest number of unsafe abortions?
I do not have the statistics as to which province in Zambia has the highest number of unsafe abortions, but overall, the unsafe abortions are still being carried out. Like I mentioned earlier on, we've had a series of sensitization programs that we have conducted in different provinces, and people are now more aware than before that this service can be offered to them should they require it, instead of them offering it to themselves. So yes, there has been a reduction, but like I mentioned also, there's still more that needs to be done. Because yes, we are carrying out sensitization programs on media, on social media, and also going into these areas to deal with the different stakeholders that we have on the ground. But that does not mean that everyone still has the access to that information. We still are requesting more stakeholders to come up and help us to disseminate this information to the masses out there. We still have a long way to go. Yes, of course, there's a reduction with regards to unsafe abortions, but at the end of the day, our goal as ZAGO is to see that no woman or girl should die from the practice of unsafe abortions.
Okay, so just to clarify, I do understand that these abortion services are offered in health facilities. So is there some financial aspect attached to that? Does somebody has to pay for them to be offered these services?
Thank you so much, Tumanji. That's a very interesting question. This service in a government hospital, I should mention, in a government hospital, this service is offered at no cost. However, if you want to procure this service from a private, of course, private hospitals have a fee attached to it. The service is provided for free in a government facility. Outside of a government facility, in a private facility, you will be charged according to the rates of that institution.
Okay, great. As we are almost coming to the close of the program, to you, Mr. Kamanga, could you just give us your concluding remarks?
Thank you very much, Tumanji. I would want to ask our people to take a keen interest in issues that affect, I think, everybody who is Zambian. And one of those issues is that of abortion. Abortion is one of the high contributors of maternal mortality rate in Zambia. I think currently we stand at 271 per 100,000 live births, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I think that calls on everyone to take a keen interest in helping to promote sexual and reproductive health of everyone, including issues relating to abortion. for all the women in Zambia, so that, like the good doctor said.
So, Mr. Kamanga, could you just hold your thought? We have a message here. This is Mr. Chipewa, who's from within Lusaka, and he's asking to say, to what extent are you collaborating with other CSOs in matters concerning unsafe abortions, especially that there are many organizations doing these works? I think, Doc, that's your question.
Yeah, I did mention earlier on that we've had different trainings for different stakeholders and also other organizations that are involved in basically advocacy of women and children and adolescent rights. One of our key stakeholders is IPAS and also Mary Stops. So these are actively involved in ensuring that women do not perform unsafe abortions and that women's rights are actively advocated for out there. So yes, we are collaborating, and we've had different workshops where we meet with all these different stakeholders. However, if you do know of an organization or an association that is actively involved in SRHR issues and also prevention of unsafe abortions, as the governing body of gynecologists and obstetricians in this country, we are saying, come we work together so that we can see how we can help our women out there from developing complications resulting from unsafe abortions.
Okay, so back to you, Mr. Kamanga, before the message came in, as you were saying.
All right, so my concluding remarks as regards to our topic of discussion today is that I want your views and every Zambian out there to take a keen interest in issues that affect, I think, the majority of our people, the women, and in particular issues relating to sexual and reproductive health rights. But also to know that the Zambian law is quite clear and elaborate when it comes to issues of abortion, which is that abortion in Zambia is legal provided you stick to the conditions that have been set out in the law. And in this day and age, it is indeed, I think, a sad point on everyone to see women dying of unsafe and illegal abortion when you have all these trained personnel in the country.
Sure.
So our people should take that kind of, that keen interest and try to act according to what the law provides.
Thank you. Over to you, Doc. What are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks, thank you to Manju, would be that, you know, like I mentioned earlier on, that we are not here to advocate for women to have abortions. We are here to say women and adolescents have the right to choose what they want to be done to them. Women have the right to choose the different options that are tabled to them. Women have the right to come to these facilities to request for a service should they want it. And that's our message out there, ZAGO. We do not want to see a woman die from complications arising from the practice of unsafe abortions. We are saying if you need information, we are here to provide it to you and for you. We have a website. We actually have a Facebook page. You can go there, visit us, and you can ask us different questions that you may have. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you for having made it to come to this program. We hope you'll join us again. So to our dear viewers, we have come to the end of this program. We've been discussing ZAGO's Safe Choices campaign and the legal framework on the termination of pregnancy. Remember, we'll be here every Sunday from 20 to 21 hours. And also you can follow us through on Facebook. Our pages are KBN TV and ZAGO. Then you can also subscribe to the YouTube channels, which is KBN TV and ZAGO. We're on DSTV, that is channel 279, as well as Topstar 102. This was Inside Health, and I'm your host, Tubenji Chinjili. Till next week, it's bye-bye. It is said there cannot be universal health coverage without enhanced sexual reproductive health and rights. This is why Zambia Association of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, ZAGO, brings you Inside Health TV program, a program that promotes sexual reproductive health rights